This is the daily outlook into Thursday, July 2nd. Alright, so we're overall still at 50% of the range of the previous month, which was a consolidation month. Again, where do we come from on the higher time frame picture? We come from 2 classic buys to 1 swing to Z. And so far price is trading at 50% of this range, and is trading around the PD rate that's located at 50% of this range, okay, which is the suspension block. This had already created an intermediate term low and then created a balanced price range through it, and now right from the open this week has created a change in state of delivery, right, and now has retraced. Right, yesterday was a sell day, but in my opinion this doesn't represent a reversal profile because of when it happens, right, which it happens obviously the first day of the month, but on a Wednesday in terms of a weekly profile, and price comes from 2 classic buys. Right, so overall you can see that this is an internal bar, right, so this is a sign in my opinion that it's simply a phase of reaccumulation to trade to premium. You know, this is the draw liquidity, right, the highs. And so higher time frame bias, I'm biased bullish, and right, you have to pair time with it. If the month here is going to be a bullish month, right, for all that matters, this can be the low here, right? Price could expand and start creating a new range above. It goes from expansion, consolidation, right, then expansion. Then once it trades to these highs, then we'll see what it does, right? Does it create consolidation? Ideally, you want to see fair value gaps, you want to see balanced price ranged, and then continuation higher, because the yearly profile is classic buy, right? So this is going to rally probably until the fourth quarter. Right, so the key level here, just to pay attention, see if for whatever reason New York is trading in these levels, right? You want to have these quadrants on your chart. They provide great trading opportunities. But overall, just to assess order flow, right? Is price bullish? Is price bearish? You want to pair that with the profile of the day. You can see that you know, around this range, aside from the suspension block, there's a breaker, there's a bullish order block. Right, so this range here is pretty high resistance, and it's bounced, right? Price went offered both sides of the range, and now it's trading at 50% of it. But like, what matters here, overall, what matters is the weekly profile, right? We have to think in terms of the weekly profile. But you know, this can lead to an idea also for the monthly profile. Right? Say if, for all that matters, say you're bullish to, I don't know, 32,000. Right? This may be more of a monthly profile trade. Right? If you anticipate that price here will be bullish for the month, this here is perfect timing, because it happens very early on in the monthly, right? In the monthly profile, and it's part of a, right, most likely here this will be in my opinion, a classic buy, because of the way that it formed here, right? Expansion to retracement. Well, the thing is, that's the question today, right? The question today is, price came from expansion, right? Then you have to determine if this was retracement or reversal, right? All depending on what it left at 50% of its range, this candle here, right? Because now if price comes back to this range and fails, then this could lead to an expansion lower, right? Or a continued consolidation. There's still here a bullish order block that price is respecting so far, so it's going to be important then to see the reaction there. But I do prefer the trade towards premium. Okay, on the 4-hour chart, Right, the current week here, there's a fair value gap at 50%, and the previous week also had a fair value gap at 50%. Right, so you have a discount level, you have a premium level. I can see that so far price has expanded through the fair value gap. It traded inside of a premium order block here. Right now, why this and not this one is because this one is right at 50. Right, it's at 50% of the larger order block. Right, but if not, there's also the previous weekly the NWAG, right? So the new week opening gap, and price also rejected from these levels. But again, the context, right, is what matters here is the weekly profile, because if the weekly profile will be classic buy, right, today can offer an opportunity in terms of timing to target premium. Because now price came from expansion. Right, so expansion to expansion, but expansion to expansion doesn't mean that it's always a reversal, right? It all depends on the context of the timing of the candle. Look, I could be wrong, obviously. Right? It can be that price ends up going from expansion to consolidation. Then I do believe that it's going to trade lower. But until it proves me that, I would prefer staying biased bullish because of the daily chart here, right? Because price is reclaiming 50% of the range, right? Instead of a key time of week. Right, the low of week here comes from a key discount level. Right, this is the bullish order block located inside of the 3-week lookback range. The swing here, the low of the week, comes from the upper quadrant, and price created high resistance at these levels and then expanded from it, right? From the classic buy of Monday and the range to expansion from Tuesday, right? And then yesterday created a classic sell. So range to expansion versus classic sell, right? So these are two expansion profiles. And now overall price is trading back at 50% of the range, and there's a fair value gap at these levels. Right, so if you come inside of the New York session and Asia is still the low of day here, right, then in my opinion the draw liquidity will be the previous weekly high, right? Ideally, if you get an opportunity to trade towards that draw, right, towards these highs here, this one actually, which is the highest high inside of the 3-week look back, right? This could be a potential good draw liquidity, but maybe the order block also, right? Taking profits above the high here or inside the rejection block, all depending obviously on where it is and how crazy volatile the day will be, right? Because for all that matters, New York could open here or could open at these levels. There's obviously NFP today, right? So you have to see if 830 expands, if 830 consolidates, if 830 creates a range, if 830 creates an intermediate term low or an intermediate term high. Right? That's important information coming inside of 930, coming inside of the opening range. And you have to see where is it doing it around the range. Is it doing it in premium, right? Is it doing it in discount? Does price come from expansion, right? Or does price come from consolidation? Okay, let's look at the 3-day look back. This is mostly what I'm interested in. Okay, so the profiles are what? Bullish New York reversal, range to expansion, and then classic sell. Right? Well, I mean, it never really expanded through the range low, right? So Maybe I'm wrong and this is a Z profile, but I would consider it a classic sell because it closed at the low. Right, it had a final expansion lower. Now, if today reverses that, right? So far, I do believe that there's a divergence below the pre-Z's low, and Asia is already trading high from that. Overall, the range is lower resistance here. Okay, so we can also see what the pre-Z's range left behind. There's an intermediate term high right at 50% of the range. Right, this is also a large order block, but since its wick is very large, right, it's also right at 50% of the range. I think that the wick itself, if price trades to these levels, it's going to be important to see the reaction. Ideally, you want to see fair value gaps being created through this level. Maybe you can put up some standard deviations. And see from these levels, if price is at these levels, you can anticipate a phase of retracement, or at least that's the ideal scenario, right? If price expands and then retraces, and it happens inside of the wick at the intermediate term high at 50% of the pre's daily range, then that could provide a good opportunity in terms of a daily profile. Obviously, all depending on where New York opens. Then in discount, in premium, right, there's a fair value gap. That could be another area for this could actually potentially, if overnight will rally, right, New York will probably open around these levels. That's all depending on how price delivers. Well, again, that's if I'm right that this is going to trade high. It doesn't mean I'm going to be right. Maybe price will simply do this. But again, I am biased a certain way because of the higher time frame and the context of the week. But it definitely could be I'm wrong if price starts creating expansion profiles against what is in this case a PD rate from bearish order flow. Right, that's the idea. If price were to trade lower, right, then now in that case we have to look at what's inside of the 3-day look back. Right, so we can look inside of this range. You can see that 50% of this range there's an intermediate term low here. Right, fills the inefficiency. And then, obviously there's a large rejection block in, this is in discount here. Right, and right above that there's a fair value gap that cuts through the rejection block of a bullish order block. Right, so this could also be a sensitive level. Actually, I would actually probably prefer this level. Right, and you can see that so far price respected the order block at 50% of the range. Right, so this in my opinion is pretty bullish, right, because usually that's where good expansion phases happen, right, and we have the context here of the weekly profile. Expansion, 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 right, but there was never a strong change in state of delivery here. This looks like also an accumulation phase. Right? It's an internal bar on the daily. So ideally buy profiles would be preferred in my opinion. If price is going to reject, I'm going to want to see it reject with this rejection block. If I come in New York and price is trading above it, then I do believe that price will end up being a buy profile. But if coming inside of New York, right, price rejected at these levels or is consolidating, then you have to see, right? Because price could start expanding lower or have a shakeout in the range to trade higher, right? That's a possibility in terms of a daily profile. Obviously, there's many scenarios possible, but you want to try and time them around these levels here. You got your discounted levels, order block at 50% of the range, and then right, this is right at OTE here, 62%, 70% of the range, fair value gap through an order block. And in premium, you have a premium fair value gap, and then well, at 50% of the previous daily range, there's an intermediate term high, right? So, if coming inside New York price is breaking above the intermediate term high, expanding above it, very likely, in my opinion, will trade higher. Okay, so I think that covers it. So good luck and good trading.